cybersecurity and why do we need it? But before we begin, be sure to hit that subscribe button and click on that bell notification icon so you never miss out on any updates from us. To understand the need for cybersecurity, we need to understand what cybersecurity is as a field in the first place. So, let us understand the key terminologies in cybersecurity first. So, introduction to cybersecurity. Firstly, what is cybersecurity as a concept, right? So the word has cyber and security in it. Cyber means anything essentially digital, and security means obviously to protect something, right? So cybersecurity is the field that deals with enacting countermeasures against attacks, disruptions, and thefts against and through technological systems via the means of hacking. So, cybersecurity is essentially a countermeasure against attacks, disruptions, and thefts from a digital platform, right? So, what is hacking? So, who are all of these attackers, right? So, we need to understand that first. Hacking is defined as gaining unauthorized access to a computer system or a network. So anything that is unauthorized means that you don't have permission to do that. So anybody who tries to access any of these things without permission is essentially a hacker. And if we were to look at it diagrammatically, we can see it as a hacker sort of target system diagram. So essentially, in the modern day, between the hacker and the target system, there's usually a protective measure that is put in place. That could be your firewall, that could be an antivirus. So what the hacker would do is there are two ways that he could access the target system. The first way is bypassing those security measures by exploiting some loophole or cracking through those security measures by using some sort of a brute force method, right? So these are essentially two ways in which a hacker gains access to a target system. So let us get into the introduction to ethical hacking. Now, the word ethical is something that we need. So, ethical hacking is essentially a category of hacking. So, let us understand the types of hackers first. There are essentially three primary categories of hackers. There are more, but we like to label them in these three primary categories. So, firstly, there's the black hat hacker. Now, this is the traditional malicious intent hacker, essentially. So, the black hat hacker does things for causing harm to the target or stealing information from the target, basically with malicious intent. Nothing good out of it, right? There is no positive intent in this particular hacker and his job. And then the polar opposite to that, we have the white hat hacker. So the white hat hacker is the hacker that does things legally. So that means that this hacker takes permission from the target before hacking into the target. So this is a job role entirely, taking permission from the target before hacking into the target, so that you can tell the target what sort of vulnerabilities exist in the target system. And then we have the gray hat hacker, which is sort of a combination between the black hat and the white hat. So the black hat has malicious intent, purely malicious intent, while the white hat hacker is completely legal, right? So the gray hat hacker walks between those two lines. So this gray hat hacker could be working for money, and he might not necessarily ask for permission from the target, but he might also not cause harm to the target also, right? So that is what a gray hat hacker is. So these are the three main categories of hackers. So let us look at the legalities of all of these. The black hat hacker, obviously, this profession is entirely illegal. You're not allowed to be a black hat hacker by the law in most countries. The white hat hacker is completely legal because, based on the digital laws in your country, organizations can hire you as a white hat hacker, and a gray hat hacker, depending on the actions that you take, could be legal or legal. So, the only recommended course of action if you're looking to make a career in ethical hacking is to gravitate towards a white hat hacker role. So let us understand now that we know what a white hat hacker is, what is ethical hacking, right? So ethical hacking is hacking, but it is the hacking which is in an authorized and legal way, right? So it is the authorized and legal process of finding out vulnerabilities, threats, and exploits in a system or a computer network through penetration testing. So, what is essentially penetration testing? It's to determine if any flaws or exploits exist in the target's system, right? So, you will use various methods to basically try to hack into the target system, and whatever methods are successful, you'll essentially create a report on that and you'll submit it to the employer. So the white hat hacker will hack the target system with the permission of his employer or the target, right? So he will hack into the target system, and then whatever insights he gains from that hacking attempt, he'll generate a report on it, and then he'll send that report to the employer. So now the employer, based on the report, can deploy his security team and deploy security measures on his software, on his platform, so that those exploits do not exist anymore. So let us look at some of the most common hacks in this particular domain. So, firstly, we have malware. I'm sure you guys have heard about this particular hack. So, malware come in many categories. They could come as Trojans, they could come as adware, ransomware, spyware. Essentially, what malware is a software or a tool that executes on the target system and causes harm to it. So, these could range in the level of harm they cause. So, for instance, adwares are the least harmful, but the most annoying as well, because they install these toolbars on your web browsers. They might install these unwanted softwares on your computer. So you basically don't want that. So these are essentially programs that do that. And then you have Trojans. These are innocent-looking files that are pretending to be something else, but are actually very malicious towards your system. They might replicate a lot of files. They might delete files. They might replicate directories and whatnot. Then you have more privacy encroaching hacks like spywares, which are basically like keyloggers, or basically like webcam monitors that can monitor the webcam activity or the keystrokes that you're putting down on your keyboard. And then you have yeah, organization breaking hacks like ransomware, which essentially encrypt all of the files that are present on your system. And then you have to send a particular amount of money to a Bitcoin wallet to be able to obtain the passphrase to basically decipher all of the files that are present on your system. So these are the sorts of malwares that exist, and you need to be careful about them. Then we have phishing. Now, this might not be as prevalent today based on the security measures deployed by websites. So essentially, what phishing is, it is a way where you manipulate the target into revealing their own login credentials or information. So, for instance, you can send a target a fake link like facebook.xyz instead of facebook.com. The target will enter their credentials on facebook.xyz, and you'll basically get access to their email account and to their password in plain text format. And then you can later use that basically to log into their Facebook account. Although this is very much preventable with two-factor authentication, which means whenever you try to log in from a different device, the OTP will be sent to your mobile phone, and you have to enter that OTP to be able to log in. Then you have hacks like SQL injection with websites that have SQL databases. So essentially, in the login fields of a website that have SQL databases, you will try to craft an SQL statement instead of an email account that you enter into the login field. And based on how you've crafted that SQL statement, you might actually alter or manipulate the actual SQL database of that website. So there are protection methods against this, but you can definitely use this on websites that are vulnerable to it. Then we have cross-site scripting. So essentially, your web browser runs JavaScript to allow dynamic elements in a website, right? So to be able to manipulate that JavaScript code and embed something malicious in that JavaScript code that would run on your web browser is called cross-site scripting. This happens on the client's end, on the web browser end. So basically, whenever you try to go to a website that is not secure, you might run a script involuntarily, and that might install a keylogger onto your web browser, some toolbar on your web browser, some ad on your web browser, basically anything. So any website that is unsecure, that your browser is recommending against, that you shouldn't go to that website, definitely do not go to that website. That website might have some cross-site scripts. Then we have denial of service. So this is a attack on a much larger scale. So what happens is, say you have a web application or a web server, right? You're basically hosting a web application on a web server, and it works on a request response basis, right? So the client sends a request and the server responds to the client. So what happens when there are thousands and thousands of clients above the server capacity sending requests at the same time? So if there are no anti-DOS or anti-denial of service methods that are put into place against those sorts of attacks, right? So what will happen is the server will try to process all of those requests, and because of that, the server may crash or may become so slow that it might not be able to serve to the remaining clients. So essentially, since the remaining clients who are trying to access that server aren't able to access that server because of performance issues, that sort of a thing is called denial of service, because they are being denied service, and this attack is called denial of service attack. And then finally, we have man in the middle. So man in the middle essentially is in the field of cryptography. So whenever you send an email or a message, right? So those sorts of things are usually encrypted in nature in today's world, right? So your email is encrypted with a particular protocol. Your WhatsApp message is encrypted in a particular protocol. So what happens if the line, if your network is compromised, right? So you're sending a message from point A to point B, and somebody comes in and also gets access to that message, right? So that person will get access to that message in encrypted packet format. So if this particular person is good at deciphering code, right, that person can basically reverse engineer that message and get to the actual meaning of that message. So this sort of an attack is called man in the middle attack. This could be prevented by securing the line between the target and the destination, target and the source, or it could be secured, it could be prevented by deploying much more advanced encryption methods. So why do we need cybersecurity now that we understand what ethical hacking is and the key introduction factors to the field of cybersecurity? So we're going to look over some examples to answer that. First, let us look at the Shamoon cyber attack. So in 2012, a virus known as the W32 disk track was used against Saudi Arabia's national oil companies. Saudi Aramco was one of those oil companies, the biggest one, in fact. And this this virus, this affected about 35,000 workstations that that oil company used for day-to-day transactions. So basically, the oil before being put into trucks was put into the data records, right? And the transaction was made officially. But because these workstations stopped working, that particular activity could not be fulfilled, right? So this shut down Saudi Aramco's or the other Saudi oil companies' businesses by for about a week, and because of the sheer loss that was incurred because of the stoppage of activity, this was also termed as the biggest hack in history. So you can imagine how expensive oil is. So if you shut down an oil company for a week, you can imagine the amount of losses that they incurred in that time. So there's another example that we can look at, which is the Google data leak. So essentially what happened was the information of up to 500,000 people was leaked online due to some third-party application glitch. So you may remember, like whenever you try to basically create an account on some third-party website using Google, there are some permissions that you need to give to that website. So if you're not careful with that, you might be actually compromising your own data, right? So essentially, due to this, the users filed a complaint, and there was a $7.5 million settlement for that particular grievance. So this is also a financial liability from a legal standpoint if organizations are not able to implement cybersecurity, and they are not implementing good ethical hackers, good penetration testers, good cybersecurity professionals. So essentially, the importance of cybersecurity comes down to this. If you have a large e-commerce business, for an example, and there are millions of users on your website, right? And you have billions of dollars in revenue every year. So this is a very flourishing, very successful business, right? So what will happen is you have some user data that is available for all of the users that have created an account on your website. You have some sales data from all of the transactional data, right? And you have a server essentially that is hosting your website. And what would happen if a hacker gets access to all of these, any of these essentially, right? So if he gets access to the user data, he can leak the public user information to the public, right? And if he gets access to the sales data, he might give that data to your competitor. If he gains access to the server, that hacker might be able to shut down the server and cause your business to halt for a particular amount of time. And if you have billions of dollars in revenue, that might amount to a lot of loss. And he could also basically hack into the source code of that website and be able to access the proprietary algorithm that might be the recommendation engine of that website. That might be what makes the website that special, right? So all of these things, if the hacker gets access to, could result in a loss in money. So that means that if there is some litigation, if there is the sales data leaks and the other competitor website gets access to that sales data, and they change their strategies based on the proprietary algorithm that your website has. They take more of the market share and you lose out on money. The second thing is if the users data gets leaked, you might be liable to a lawsuit and you might lose money. And in general, you lose customer satisfaction and customers trust, right? So you don't want that. So that is the importance of cybersecurity. There are some formal employment positions available for this particular job role. So there are three that are the most common formal employments for this job role. So first is the cybersecurity analyst. So this person does the job in a sort of an abstract manner. So this is more of a managerial sort of position where this person is looking after all of the aspects in which an application or a organization's network or anything essentially is compromised or available to the public, available to hackers, right? So that is what the cybersecurity analyst does. He analyzes all of the security threats that are there in an organization, all of the exploits, all of the vulnerabilities. He manages and he ensures that none of them exist by the time he's done with his job. Then you have the security engineer, which is sort of a software engineering role. So any software, while it is being developed in today's world, it needs to have some security measures put in place. So as much as you have the development team on one hand, you have the security engineer that ensures that libraries and all of the security measures that are put into place in that application are good. He basically ensures the development aspect of the application and ensures that there are no security flaws or vulnerabilities in the maintenance phase or in the deployment phase of that application. And then we have the penetration tester. So this is sort of a straightforward job role. The penetration tester is a direct translation of an ethical hacker or a white hat hacker, and this person's job is to hack into the target system. And if the person is able to hack into the target system, his job is to generate a report on that. So he tries to penetrate into the target system, and that is where the name penetration tester comes from. So let us look at the salary of a cybersecurity professional. So if you are a certified ethical hacker, which is a course that Intellipaat provides to you, the training for this particular course, right? And you can get the certification. This is from the EC Council. It's called the CEH Ethical Hacker Certification. If you get the certification, the average salary of a certified ethical hacker would be around $75,000 in the US, 7 lakhs per annum in India, 46,000 pounds in the UK. Now keep in mind this is not the starting or the end salary of any cybersecurity expert. Obviously, you can gain more certifications, and the more certifications you gain, the more experience you gain in this particular domain, the higher you will fetch, because security is a very important aspect in today's world, right? And that is about it for this session from Intellipaat. If you liked what you saw, be sure to give us a thumbs up, a like on this video. And if you like this particular domain, which is the cybersecurity domain, and you're interested in it, you can certainly go on to intellipaat.com. You can chat with our course advisors who are available 24/7. You can contact our course advisors as well using the contact details, the phone numbers, and you can also contact our sales team if you have some query that you would like to email us regarding our courses, right? And with that done, be sure to sign up for our webinar. We post content like this every day. And if you want to ask us live doubts during these sessions, you can contact us through the webinar. The link for the webinar registration is in your YouTube chat box. So that is about it from Intellipaat. Thank you and goodbye.